Welcome to NFL Nexus. Today, we are diving into what might be the single biggest decision any team faces this offseason, the Cleveland Browns 2026 crossroads. I mean, after a season that was an absolute disaster, they're standing at a fork in the road with two completely different blueprints to try and rebuild this thing into a contender. The choice they make? It's going to define the next half-decade for this entire franchise. So we're going to break down both paths, piece by piece, and really analyze the high-stakes chess match sitting in front of GM Andrew Berry. Let's get right into it.
You know, before you can figure out where you're going, you have to understand exactly why you failed. And for the 2025 Browns, it all comes down to this number right here, 5-12. 5 wins, 12 losses. Look, this isn't just a bad record. In the absolute meat grinder that is the AFC North, this is a catastrophic failure. A season that started with real championship hopes ended in just a total collapse. This number, 5-12, it just hangs over the entire organization, and it was the undeniable reason they had to hit the reset button.
And this slide right here, this is the heart of the problem. This is why everything went so wrong. The 2025 Browns were, and I'm not kidding, two completely different teams wearing the same uniform. On one side, you had offensive futility. I mean, averaging just 16.4 points a game. That is shockingly bad in today's NFL. The offense was just stagnant, predictable, and totally lifeless. But then, you flipped the coin, and you had sheer historic dominance on defense. Myles Garrett was playing like a man possessed, a one-man wrecking crew, setting a new single-season sack record with 23. The defense was championship caliber, and you simply cannot win anything when your team is this broken, this split in two.
So, the fallout from that 5-12 season? It was fast, and it was decisive. Finishing dead last in the AFC North, while your biggest rivals are all getting better, that sends a pretty clear message. What you're doing is not working. The biggest move, of course, was the team parting ways with head coach Kevin Stefanski. That was basically the front office holding their hands up and admitting that the old philosophy had run its course. It was the signal of a new era, an acknowledgement that changing direction wasn't just an option anymore, it was an absolute necessity.
Okay, so from this point on, every single decision comes down to the numbers. This is where the real chess match begins for the front office. And it's not just about balancing a checkbook, folks. It's this delicate financial puzzle filled with massive constraints, but also just enough opportunities to make things really, really interesting. This is not a team that can just go out and write blank checks. Every dollar has to be spent with surgical precision, and this whole puzzle is built around one single, gigantic number.
And here it is. This is the number that looms over every conversation, every negotiation, every decision. $80.7 million. That is the salary cap hit for one single player, Deshaun Watson. It is a financial reality that is almost unlike any other in the entire league, and it's an anchor that dictates everything the Browns can, and more importantly, what they cannot do. It forces them to be smarter, more creative, and just flat out better than almost every other front office out there.
But, and this is a huge but, despite that massive anchor, there is a path forward. All is not lost. Through some really clever restructures and some financial gymnastics, the Browns have managed to carve out roughly $35 million in effective spending power. Now let's be clear, this is not go-crazy money, but it is get-to-work money. It's enough to be a serious player for some key free agents. It's enough to make a real difference if, and this is the key, if you don't miss. There's absolutely zero room for error with this cash.
All right, so you've got your $35 million. Where do you even start? The shopping list is long, and it's almost all on the offensive side of the ball. Priority 1, you have got to stabilize an offensive line that's getting older and has some big question marks. 2, you desperately need a vertical playmaker, someone who can just run by people and take the top off a defense to create space underneath. 3, the tight end position needs a new dynamic. And finally, you absolutely have to bring in a veteran quarterback presence to solidify that room.
So this brings us to the first big strategy, the first potential blueprint on the table, and it's the exciting one. We're calling this one the force multipliers. This is the bold path. This is the high-risk, high-reward approach. This philosophy isn't about just patching holes, it's a Super Bowl or bust mentality. The idea is you spend that limited cap space on a few elite, foundational guys who don't just upgrade their own position, they make everyone around them better.
So what in the world is a force multiplier? It's a pretty cool concept, really. Think of it like a rising tide that lifts all boats. A truly great left tackle doesn't just block his guy. He gives the quarterback an extra second, which helps the receiver get open, which helps the team score. It's a ripple effect. A force multiplier makes the entire system better. For a team like the Browns with limited cash, landing 1 or 2 of these guys could give you a much bigger bang for your buck than signing 5 or 6 just okay players.
If you're hunting for a force multiplier, you start in the trenches. You just have to. And a guy like Rasheed Walker is pretty much the poster child for this strategy. He's quietly become one of the most reliable blindside protectors in the entire league. So signing him isn't just plugging a hole, it's a foundational move that locks down the most important spot on the line for the next 5 years. And the domino effect here is massive. It allows the colossal DeJuan Jones to move back to his natural home at right tackle. All of a sudden, you've turned a weakness into a potentially elite bookend tackle duo. That's a game changer. Another prime target in this strategy also works in the trenches, but this time, you're building from the inside out, with a center like Tyler Linderbaum. This guy's the nerve center, the brain of the entire offense. He is one of the most athletic and technically gifted centers in the game, which makes him a total weapon in the run game. But his real value as a force multiplier comes from his mind. He's the quarterback of the O-line, diagnosing defenses, setting protections, and just making everyone's job 1,000 times easier.
For what feels like an eternity, the Browns' passing game has been missing one critical ingredient, a guy who can just run past people. Alec Pierce is that ingredient. He's a force multiplier because his pure speed literally changes the math for the defense. Safeties have to take 2 steps back before the ball is even snapped. That opens up all this green grass underneath for your other receivers to work in. He doesn't just catch passes, he fundamentally warps the geometry of the field for your entire offense.
The final force multiplier target is a guy who just creates headaches for defensive coordinators. Isaiah Likely isn't a traditional tight end. He is a modern mismatch weapon. He's basically a big wide receiver. So who covers him? You put a linebacker on him, he's too fast. You put a safety on him, he's too big. Now imagine pairing his explosive, yards after the catch ability with a promising young player like Harold Fannin Jr. You could create these 2 tight end sets that would cause total chaos for a defense.
So this quote right here, it perfectly sums up the whole philosophy, doesn't it? It's an aggressive, top-heavy strategy that is all about raising your team's absolute ceiling. It's about chasing greatness. But man, it's a huge gamble. So what if there's another way, a more cautious, maybe even smarter path?
And that brings us to blueprint number 2, the pragmatic path. Yeah, I know it doesn't sound nearly as sexy as force multipliers, but if the first plan was all about hitting home runs, this one is about consistently hitting singles and doubles. It's about spreading that $35 million across several proven vets, taking some calculated risks on undervalued guys, and making sure you re-sign your own key players. This is all about raising the floor of your roster.
The pragmatic approach starts at the most important position on the field. You bring in a veteran like Geno Smith. Look, a lot of people around the league think his struggles in Las Vegas were because the whole situation was a mess, not because he suddenly forgot how to play football. He represents a low-cost, high-floor option who can come in, compete for the starting job, and be an invaluable mentor in that QB room. It's not flashy, but it's a smart, practical football move that stabilizes the position without breaking the bank.
Now this move has GM Andrew Berry written all over it. The pragmatic path loves finding value where others don't. And Elijah Vera Tucker is a classic reclamation project. The guy was a first-round pick with the Jets for a reason. The talent is absolutely there. The problem has been injuries. So you're taking a calculated risk on his health, but if it pays off, you could get a Pro Bowl caliber lineman who can play both guard and tackle for pennies on the dollar. That's a huge potential win.
Unlike the big home run swing for Alec Pierce, signing a guy like Darnell Mooney is the definition of a smart, practical addition. Mooney isn't a superstar, but he's a reliable, professional wide receiver who just knows how to get open. He's got a 900-yard season on his resume. He's the perfect number 3 receiver who can step up and be your number 2 if you need him to. He fills a clear need without commanding a massive contract. This is how you build a deep, solid receiver room.
And a huge part of the pragmatic path is taking care of your own proven talent. After a rocky start to his career elsewhere, linebacker Devin Bush came to Cleveland and completely turned things around. He was flying all over the field, racking up 125 tackles and 3 picks. Bringing him back is, well, it's a no-brainer. You know exactly what you're getting, you reward a guy who played well for you, and you prevent yourself from creating another hole you have to go fill on the open market. It's just the smart, sensible move.
So let's put it all together side by side. When you look at it like this, you can really see the 2 competing mindsets, can't you? On one hand, you have the force multiplier strategy. It's all about high-impact, ceiling-raising talent, like a Walker or a Linderbaum. It's top-heavy, aggressive, go big or go home. On the other hand, the pragmatic path is about spreading your resources on proven vets and reclamation projects, raising the overall floor of the team. It's really high ceiling versus high floor.
And so this is where we land. We arrive at the final decision. This is Cleveland's path back to contention, and the choice they make is going to have ripple effects for years and years to come.
Do they consolidate their resources and bet big on a few elite players who they believe can single-handedly elevate the entire offense? Or do they play the odds, diversify their investments, and build a deeper, more resilient roster piece by piece? There is no easy answer here, especially with the money they're dealing with and the brutal reality of their division.
So it all comes down to this: big swings or smart singles, the path of the home run hitter or the path of the pragmatist. Both have their merits, and both are loaded with risk. The future of the Cleveland Browns is hanging on this very choice. So which path would you take? I want to know. Drop your blueprint in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. And definitely subscribe to NFL Nexus for more. And hey, if you want to support the channel, we've got some awesome coloring books. They're great for kids and honestly a perfect stress reliever for adults after a rough game. You can check them out using the QR code on the screen or the link in the description. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.